a lot of these things, they don't seem bad on the surface, but then when they get implemented,
Yeah.
you know, human selfishness and the ability to make mistakes and stuff, all of those are factors that are never factored in,
So
never correctly, anyways.
I suppose we could move into talking about maybe the government's role in how the internet infrastructure is. So I think it's the 1996 Telecommunications Act. Yeah.
This isn't, I guess everything I would have to say is pretty much ideological, but, um,
Well, there's
because I don't
politics
know much
involved.
about the laws they've been.
Well, that's why we're gonna. That's why I'm gonna refer to the Telecommunications Act, and then we're gonna figure out. I mean, I do know a little bit of just kind of like a vague idea of why the internet is trash, but um, it's
Why
up.
is it trash? It doesn't seem like it is. It seems like it's one of the things that are still relatively free,
No, I
in
just
terms
mean
of
the
not being massively
infrastructure.
regulated.
I just mean the
What do you?
infrastructure.
Oh, you're talking about like fucking 1 megabit internet and shit all over the place.
And how there's only a few companies that can provide. There's a few ISPs.
Oh,
And
so you think the 1996 Internet Act was like a huge choke point for a lot of
well, it's
companies to
there's a
actually get
reason
started and
why.
establishing?
I'm pretty sure there's a reason why a lot of businesses, pushed for it back in the day. There, yes. So, hold on a second. And it's so outdated. I mean, fuck. What is this like? So 20 years old, right? 20 years in technology is like a fucking century. I mean, and everything
Right.
else, law, like legislation wise. And this is what dictates a lot of, for example, like how internet service is like classified, like federally, or and then how these companies can use the public infrastructure, and then like suddenly, like it's so weird like how it's set up. So like we funded like other companies to actually like lay, or actually these the same companies to lay the infrastructure. So we funded all of that, and but then suddenly we don't have ownership over it. The companies do because they laid the infrastructure but didn't pay for it.
Oh, wow. So they can do whatever they want with their
Right, and so then
telecommunication
they're
line.
gonna be like, okay, dokie. So what Comcast does? It's like, oh yeah, you can use our copper whatever or whatever they have set up. They might have fiber somewhere. Oh, you can use it,
So
but
they
we're
basically had a free ride from the taxpayer and then just took all ownership back.
right. And then look, but this is why there's only a few companies. So, because okay, so in St. Helens, I guess for example, so there's Comcast, CenturyLink. That's it. So um, basically, I'm pretty sure at least it might not be the same everywhere, but the way it works is like, so since Comcast owns all the infrastructure in St. Helens, if CenturyLink wants to use that infrastructure, well, why the fuck is Comcast gonna give them full bandwidth? They wouldn't. They're just gonna give them a portion of bandwidth, but they're gonna charge them the
Right.
same price, like as if like CenturyLink like owned it, like as if that's why like they can't be competitive in pricing because they have to use someone else's infrastructure, and then that business can just charge for
Right.
whatever because they know that, okay, I'll charge them this price, and then they can't beat our prices because their internet will be slower.
Would Is there something preventing them from creating their own cable lines and stuff?
Well, there's a lot of regulation. Some of it is in this act where the way
Well,
that
I'm just curious because I know Google Fiber is a thing, and they've been trying to work on that, and
Well,
that
they're
sounds like
trying to right.
that
That's
might
why
be a
they're
solution to one of
that's
these.
why they're only going to certain like states and cities that have like got rid of those regulations or maybe ignored some federal things or whatever to make it to where hey new ISPs can start up and not have to and just lay their own infrastructure but they have to pay for it but they can have the same amount of space they can be right along Comcast and not have to use Comcast's lines. But the way it is in some places is
Yeah.
like other companies that start up, they're like, well, the government's like, well, no, you're not going to set up new infrastructure. You're going to use what we paid for, whatever, so many years ago. But Comcast owns it, so you just go through them. And then Comcast is like, well, fuck you. You're not going to have the full speed, and we're going to charge you to where you can't beat our prices.
And this is another one of those things I was telling you about, where companies use regulation to gain a monopoly.
And that's
And
kind
it's
of
just like
what,
they did that.
yeah.
They did that with that one act, you know?
And there's many other ones, but that's just what people refer to. Some people say that, hey, maybe we should classify like ISPs, to be like a public service, or I can't remember. There's different classifications for different businesses, and so if it was under a different classification, then they could compete
You know,
better.
and here's the thing, it's like, well, what does like our power and sewage like, it should be just like any one of those. But it's not, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not sure exactly because at the same time, with with that kind of stuff, it's more cut and dry. I mean, it's just like, hey, you got a garbage service. I mean, yeah, there's multiple garbage services in like an area, but I mean, as far as like water companies, I mean, there's not many like in an area at once, but isn't like a corporation that controls a huge space. It's just a bunch of individual companies that are just dedicated to certain areas, which how it should be with the internet too.
Yeah.
There shouldn't just be one huge company that can control all the infrastructure and that can control like Comcast tomorrow could probably double their speeds if they really wanted to, but they just don't
Well,
care because they have to segmentate it in order to like because those lines okay so all those lines they can go up to a max speed and then a minimum speed but they just fragment it to the point where okay well we're just gonna make them pay a little bit more to go a little faster because why would we give them the full speed if we can just segment it in a certain way because
and
they can't find there's no competitor so we don't have to we don't have to yeah, they don't have to compete, so they can just kind of set their prices to whatever they want, and pretty much in so many areas it's that way. Um, and the CenturyLink can't compete because it's hard for them to get past regulation to lay their own infrastructure, and they can't compete with the pricing because how are they going to convince someone that well we're half the speed as Comcast but we charge almost as much a month but how are you going to convince anyone? Like, it just doesn't. There's no way to.
yeah,
That's why they try to bundle it with like,
there's no
yeah.
can realistically compete, you know.
That's why
And
CenturyLink
another
bundles
thing,
with like TV and stuff. They have. I think they go through like not DirecTV, but one of the other satellite Dish. I think I'm not sure. One of the other satellite TV companies. That way they can bundle it in and be like, okay, hey, you'll get internet with your TV, so that way it can make it sound better. For them to compete and still provide internet.
yeah, and it's like, sure, if they were the ones who actually laid down the fucking lines and stuff, they would be like, well, you guys can't use our lines or you got to follow our rules. But that's the thing. All of that was put on the taxpayers, and they have no right, no say, and the people competing have to fucking deal with that too. Like it's like it was like a deal where everyone but Comcast got fucked on.
Because
You
yeah,
know?
basically what happened was, yeah, like we funded majority of the infrastructure, and then Comcast, basically just claimed ownership of it, and then as a result, other companies can't compete because there's regulation for laying, new infrastructure that kind of is a barrier.
Yeah. But so do you have any of those other regulations up or
Well, I just kind of go, you know, I just kind of went through the Telecommunications Act, but um,
I do think like and that's the thing, like it's fucking crazy that the only one who can even realistically try and do something about it is like Google, this super fucking rich and powerful company. And like even because of the way like the infrastructure laws and shit or whatever it is set, it's like they can't even bring that shit everywhere they want to too. There should be the thing is it's like the people who see regulation as like the saving grace or whatever for stuff. It's like, well, think about it. Without the regulation, we would all be on fucking Google Fiber, 50 meg internet, fucking or 500, whatever it was. It was something ridiculous.
yeah, I mean, you
And
got to
it's
pay
like,
like double to even get like half that speed with Comcast.
yeah, and it's like, and they had two fucking great deals with it where it was like, you could pay a monthly thing and get like super fast internet, or you can pay a one-time fee for them to lay the lines or whatever in that area and get access to the internet that's present, like shit that's like faster than Comcast is right now. You
Well,
know?
that's kind of why like some. That's why they choose some cities that are. And that's why like they. I think I'm not sure if Google did, but at some point, they were like, hey, call your local government representative and tell them, look, let us put some infrastructure down because we need to be able to compete and get faster internet to people. Because internet, it's. I think internet is just as important as any other like utility. It's in fact, it's arguably like more important than some. I mean, but because it's just that with information, I mean, most people think like, oh, well, the internet, is just used for whatever, like just entertainment, right? But I mean, to be honest,
No,
there's so many schools and universities or just people that educate themselves with the internet because there's a reason why like libraries, they have the internet there because it's just one of the best resources to use to get information.
and it's not just that. There's like places where you can only apply online. You know, you. I mean, it's replaced things that used to be like mail-based services where you send them a letter to ask them for this, that, and the other, where you just fill out applications for it online and stuff too, from the like even government stuff. And it's just like there's so much. It's become such a
Like having the internet limited is
norm,
just holding everything
norm for
back.
yeah, and like I get there's like problems getting internet to certain parts of America and stuff, and there probably always will be because it's a big country. But it's just one of those things that it's like it's such a fundamental part of the way like our society runs and shit. You know?
Well, here's one thing. So, like, that some people may not notice or realize, but, we got phones everywhere. Home phones and then mobile phones to everyone, everywhere. The coverage is way good. And honestly, there's a lot of areas where your phone's internet beats the wired or the infrastructure or the company. So that's how you know that there's something wrong with the way that regulation is towards phones and towards internet. Because you're having like
Yeah.
people that are like, well, fuck, dude. Um, like, why would I even want to buy internet that's slower than like my fucking phone?
Yeah,
It's like
that's true. I mean,
because they have like 4G LTE, which beats it beats a lot of like of ISPs, and and it actually can beat Comcast, with some of their lower price plans. So it's just and that's fucking completely wireless, and it's like anything wired should be way faster than something wireless always.
yeah, because it's a direct connection. You
Right.
know.
There's no like latency. There's no like interference. There's no right, no barriers, physical barriers. So it's just like there's no excuse why it should be harder for you to get faster internet wired than for you to just go into whatever I don't know Metro or something and get internet cheaper and faster than what you get at home. So the internet is pretty fucked. I mean, we have some of the slowest internet in the world. So, I mean, like Japan, like
Yeah, I know there.
they got like gigabit, like it's for like so cheap and everywhere in Japan. So, just like an example, I
Yeah,
mean, and the UK. I mean, we kind of made the internet here in America, and we just have some of the worst internet.
yeah, I've heard all about that. Like everywhere in Europe, basically, they've got better internet and shit. But then again, there's other stuff in Europe, like you can't like legally own a TV or whatever in Germany or some crazy shit. You need like a TV permit.
So, I guess since we kind of talked about that, we can just